The ancient Romans were great builders. They built roads and aqueducts, temples and tombs. They even invented concrete. But they were also surprisingly bad at keeping things tidy. And, as we've seen before, when excavations turn up a stray chicken bone or misplaced marble statue, historians can't help but get excited. So when a team of archaeologists stumbled across a set of catacombs beneath an old church in Rome, they thought they might have found something special. What they didn't know was that this particular labyrinth of tunnels held secrets that are best left buried. In this corner of Rome, narrow streets wind between buildings so close they seem to lean on each other for support, sharing stories across blank stairs of window and balcony. Tucked away here, unsuspecting tourists do not roam. In this maze of alleys, time slows to a crawl, unburdened by the clatter of crowds or the buzz of commerce. Here, cobblestones whisper tales of a past that lingers just beneath the surface. It's a place where layers of history converge, and the echoes of ancient Romans mingle with the ghosts of Renaissance whispers. In this neighborhood, life unfolds at the pace of strolling, of lingering over a cappuccino, of engaging strangers in impromptu conversations over shared tables. The air hums with the energy of those living traditions, making it almost tangible. A few blocks in, tucked between a flower shop overflowing with sunflowers and a bar whose windows are fogged with steam, lies a building unremarkable except for an unassuming plaque set in its wall. This was the excavation site, where the modern world intersected with the ancient. Here, beneath the foundation of a long-gone church, lay the catacombs, a necropolis from the reign of Emperor Hadrian. This was the city of Romulus, the legend that gave Rome its name. The story goes that he sheared a wolf suckling twins and raised them as his own. The wolf and House of Romulus is a monument to that mythical beginning, commemorating a moment that Rome believes gave birth to its destiny. The idea of a she-wolf suckling Romulus and Remus has become a potent symbol of Rome's identity. The sculpture seems to capture the essence of the moment when fate intertwined the destinies of these abandoned infants and the she-wolf, forever linking Rome to its wild beginnings. But here, amid the ancient stones, something else stirs. An energy older than Rome itself seems to linger. The very bricks seem to hold their breath, guarding secrets best left undisturbed. It was here that Dr. Lucia Marini and her small team of archaeologists uncovered a mystery that threatened to consume them. The discovery of the underground chamber was nothing short of astonishing. It was a find that promised to rewrite history books and star Dr. Mariani as its hero. Yet she couldn't shake off a growing unease, a feeling that what they'd unearthed was more than just dirt and debris. There was something about the silence of the catacombs, about the way the darkness seemed to press against their flashlights that unnerved her. But excitement won out. So she descended deeper into the catacombs, venturing into the heart of the labyrinth with only her intuition and a battery-powered lantern for guidance. As she moved further into the catacombs, Dr. Mariani realized that what she had found was more than just a collection of burial chambers. It was a portal to another world. She was surrounded by thousands of years of death, of silent screams echoing through the tunnels. It was as if the spirits of the departed were reaching out to her, trying to tell her something. But what? Was she merely tired? Had the stifling atmosphere gotten to her? Or was there something in the catacombs that stirred not just her imagination, but something primal within her soul? What Dr. Mariani found next made her question everything she knew about ancient Rome. It was a secret so dark, so disturbing, that it threatened to shatter the very foundations of Roman history. Amidst the silence, Dr. Mariani found remnants of rituals, not the solemn rites of a dying empire, but something sinister. Etched onto the tomb walls were symbols, shapes that predated Rome, whispering of cults and sacrifices. These weren't the markings of a civilization that had fallen, but of one that lurked beneath the city's glory. Days turned into weeks as Dr. Mariani and her team meticulously uncovered layer after layer of history. With each passing day, The picture that emerged was more unsettling than the last. The catacombs were not just a burial ground, but a nexus of forbidden practices, a testament to a darker side of Rome that history had conveniently ignored. As Dr. Mariani delved deeper, she uncovered artifacts, strange devices that had no place in mainstream Roman life. They hinted at a society living in the shadows, practicing magic and summoning beings from realms beyond human understanding. Each discovery chipped away at Dr. Marini's sanity, leaving her on the edge of a precipice. What she was witnessing was not just a historical anomaly, but a threat to the fabric of reality. Yet, despite the mounting dread, she couldn't bring herself to stop. The more she learned, the more she feared, but the fear only fueled her determination to uncover the truth. For Dr. Mariani, the pursuit of knowledge had become an obsession, and she was willing to risk anything to satiate it. Meanwhile, Marco, ever the pragmatist, struggled to reconcile the academic curiosity with the mounting evidence that suggested they were playing with forces beyond their comprehension. He saw the toll the catacombs were taking on Dr. Mariani, how it was consuming her, turning her into something haunted. The line between scientific inquiry and reckless endangerment had become perilously thin. Marco felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. It was up to him to be the voice of reason, to pull Dr. Mariani back from the brink before the darkness of the catacombs claimed her completely. Yet, despite his concerns, Marco couldn't help but be intrigued by what they'd found. The allure of the unknown was too strong to resist. And as the weeks passed, he, too, found himself inexorably drawn into the mysteries of the catacombs. As Dr. Mariani ventured deeper into the catacombs, the air grew colder. The darkness wasn't just impenetrable, it was sentient, pressing against her, trying to push her back into the safety of the sunlit world. But she refused to turn back. She was so close to the truth, she could feel it. But the truth, as it often does, was stranger than fiction. At the heart of the catacombs, Dr. Mariani found a chamber unlike any she'd seen before. The walls were covered in symbols, and in the center stood a monolithic altar. As she approached, the air crackled with energy. Then she saw it, an inscription carved into the altar, a single chilling sentence that changed everything. "He who seeks the hidden truth must pay the ultimate price." Dr. Mariani felt a cold dread creep up her spine. Was this a warning? Was she playing with forces she couldn't understand? But it was too late. The darkness had already taken root in the catacombs, and she was its newest prisoner. Her mind reeled as she absorbed the implications of what she'd found. The catacombs weren't just a burial ground. They were a gateway, a nexus point where the veil between the worlds was thinnest. But why? Why had such a place been allowed to exist? Who had built the catacombs and for what purpose? And what was the price the inscription spoke of? Had she already paid it? As she stood there grappling with the revelations, the darkness in the catacombs seemed to stir. The silence was broken by a low growl, a sound that promised pain and terror. Dr. Mariani spun around, her heart pounding. But there was nothing there. Only the darkness and the whispers of the dead. Had she imagined it? Was exhaustion getting the better of her? Or was she truly not alone in the catacombs? Marco found Dr. Mariani in the central chamber, her face ashen, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and dawning realization. He could see the inscription, could feel the oppressive darkness that seemed to emanate from the altar. He understood then that what they had stumbled upon wasn't just a historical oddity. It was a doorway to a realm that humanity wasn't meant to see. And somehow they had opened it. Marco knew they couldn't stay. Whatever was in the catacombs, whatever lurked in the shadows, it was too dangerous. They had to leave. But as he tried to convince Dr. Mariani to flee, he saw that it was too late. The catacombs had claimed another victim. Dr. Mariani was lost to them, consumed by the darkness. The inscription was right. The seekers of hidden truths had paid the ultimate price, and now the catacombs would claim them both, And thank you for watching." Marco hurried ahead, eager to put some distance between himself and the others. He didn't want to admit it, but he was scared. They had been warned not to come here, yet here they were in the Roman catacombs, deep under the city where legend said the souls of the damned were trapped. He could hear Dr. Marianne calling after him, urging him to slow down, but he kept going, driven by an irrational need to escape the oppressive darkness that pressed against him like a shroud. He pushed aside a tangle of weeds and vines, then froze. There, at the end of the tunnel, was another opening, a shaft of sunlight cutting through the gloom. Hope surged through him. An exit. Relief flooded him, so powerful that for a moment he forgot his fear. He started to run, stumbling toward the light. "Marco, wait," Dr. Mariani said, her voice edged with panic. "You don't know what's out there." "I'd rather take my chances than stay in this hellhole," he shouted back. He burst through the opening and fell to his knees, shielding his eyes against the brightness. When he dared to look up, he saw only sky. Above him, the opening stretched like a gaping maw. Vines and ivy climbed over the rough edges, blurring the boundary between earth and sky. It was a trap, one designed to lure them up with false hope of escape. He wanted to scream, to warn the others, but no sound came out. His throat was constricted, his limbs heavy, as if weighted with unseen chains. Fear, cold and clammy, gripped him from the inside. He tried to rise, to scramble back down the hole, but his muscles wouldn't obey. He thrashed about, his movements wild, desperate, as if something unseen was dragging him down. Then, just as suddenly, the paralysis lifted. He was still kneeling in the opening, bathed in the golden light of the afternoon sun. But now he could move. He scrambled back into the tunnel and ran blindly toward the others. "Dr. Mariani," he gasped, collapsing beside her. "There's nothing there. It's a trap." She looked at him, her face pale and drawn, her eyes wide with a nameless terror. "I know," she whispered. "I know it's a trap." But she wasn't looking at him. Her gaze was fixed on something behind him in the tunnel. Marco turned. The darkness was absolute. Their flashlights sputtered but did not die completely, only dimmed, their beams now pale shafts that illuminated little more than dust and stone. He fumbled with his equipment, muttering curses under his breath. The sound echoed unnaturally, bouncing off the walls until it seemed like a dozen voices whispered his words back to him. Dr. Mariani held up her hand. "Quiet." That was when they heard it. A whisper, faint, like breath brushing against the ear. At first it was shapeless, only a susurration of sound. But then, as they strained to listen, it formed words in broken Latin. "Turn back. Turn back." The assistants exchanged nervous glances. One, a young woman named Sophia, clutched the crucifix around her neck. "We shouldn't be here," she whispered, her voice shaking. The whispering grew louder, overlapping, dozens of voices tangled together, pleading, warning, weeping. "Don't go further," they hissed. "Don't go further. It's a trap. You'll never escape." They moved cautiously forward. The corridor narrowed, forcing them to walk single file. Their lights revealed fresher markings, scratches along the walls, gouges in the stone as if made by fingernails. The air grew colder, their breaths fogging in the thin beams. Then suddenly a cry rang out. Marco turned. His beam found Sophia's light lying shattered on the ground. The girl was gone. They called her name, their voices trembling through the darkness. No answer. Only the return of the whispers, now mocking, repeating Sophia's name again and again. "Sophia, Sophia, Sophia." Panic clawed at them. Dr. Mariani forced herself to stay calm, though her heart pounded violently in her chest. "We go on," she said, her voice a brittle whisper. "We find another way up." But in her eyes there was terror, the same unspoken dread they all shared. They were not alone. And something in these catacombs was waiting. They hurried on, the whispers growing louder, more insistent. Marco felt a growing dread in his stomach, a cold certainty that they were being stalked, hunted by something unseen. He yearned to break into a run, to flee blindly through the tunnels, but he forced himself to keep to the pace set by Dr. Mariani. She was older, more experienced. She knew better than the rest of them what they were up against. Another passage opened before them, wider, darker. "This way," Dr. Mariani said, nodding toward the inky blackness. "It's our only chance." He hesitated. Something about the tunnel both repelled and fascinated him. Was he mad? Of course he was. This whole escapade was madness. But he couldn't stop now, not after what had happened to Sophia. He followed the others deeper into the catacombs, the whispers swirling around them like a living thing. The passage twisted and turned, descending gradually into the earth. It was a tomb, or once had been. Now it was a labyrinth of darkness. They stumbled on, their faces grim, their eyes reflecting the faint light of their flashlights. Sweat beaded on their brows, their breathing growing heavier, their hearts pounding in their chests. Suddenly, Marco stopped. "Did you see that?" he whispered, his voice tight with fear. The others shook their heads. "See what?" Dr. Mariani asked, her voice sharp with impatience. "There's nothing here, Marco. Stop wasting our time." "I thought I saw movement," he said, his gaze sweeping the darkness. Something dark, like a shape shifting in the shadows. "It was probably just a rat," Dr. Mariani said dismissively. "There are plenty of those down here." He didn't reply, but he kept his eyes on the darkness. He felt exposed, vulnerable, hunted. He longed for the open air, for the sunlight, for the safety of the world above the catacombs, but he knew they couldn't escape now. Not while Sophia was still down here somewhere, trapped in the clutches of whatever evil lurked in these tunnels. They journeyed on, the whispers growing louder, more insistent, pressing against them like a physical force. Then the darkness shifted. A new sound joined the whispers, a low, guttural growl that vibrated in their bones. Fear froze them in place, their breaths held captive in their chests. And then it came again, closer now, accompanied by the scrape of claws on stone. Whatever was down here with them was big, powerful, predatory. The growl rumbled in the darkness, echoing their own terror back to them. "Run!" someone screamed, the word lost in the vastness of the catacombs. They didn't need to be told twice. They fled, stumbling and racing through the tunnels, their flashlights bobbing wildly, their breaths ragged gasps in the darkness. Marco didn't dare look back. He didn't want to see whatever was chasing them, didn't want to know if they were catching up, if it was gaining on them. All he could think about was escape, getting away from the growling, the scratching, the whispering. They burst out of the catacombs, blinking against the sunlight, gasping for breath, their bodies slick with sweat. The world above was blessedly silent. No growling, no scratching, no whispering. Only the sound of birds and the distant hum of traffic. But then, as if echoing their terror, the whispers followed them even into the sunlight. "Turn back, they hissed, slithering through the cracks in the ancient stones. "You can't escape us. You're trapped forever." They stood there, drenched in sweat, listening to the whispers, knowing that they were not alone. Something was down there with them in the catacombs, something evil, something hungry, and it wanted them back. As I sit here writing this, listening to the pitter-patter of rain against my window, I can't help but think how nice it is to be safe inside. Away from the elements, tucked up in bed with a nice cup of tea, or sat at my desk working away. The weather outside can do one. Here we have a tale of trespassers who found out the hard way that some places are best left alone. Our story begins in the catacombs beneath Rome. Now, if you don't know much about these catacombs, they are an underground tunneling maze system where over the course of 2,000 years, some 6 million Christians were put to rest. Some were interred there after martyrdom, others simply died in the squalid conditions of the sprawling city. It's estimated that more than half of all the people buried there were children. It's the year 1940, and World War II is well underway. Italy has been occupied by German forces, and thousands of civilians live in fear of the Luftwaffe dropping a bomb on their neighborhood. Few places are safer than underground in the labyrinthine tunnels of the catacombs. But recently, strange things have been happening down there. Lights have been flickering. Footsteps have been heard. Some say even voices. Of course, everyone puts it down to the Allied forces fighting back against the Nazi occupation. After all, the Americans would drop paratroopers in the middle of the night for a training exercise. Soldiers would skirmish in the abandoned tunnels. Sometimes whole platoons would go missing. One day, a group of men arrive at the entrance of the catacombs. We meet our protagonist, Marco, a young archaeologist who's been assigned to discover what is really going on down there. With him are two assistants, both veterans of the Second World War. Together, they descend into the catacombs and begin investigating. As they make their way through the tunnels, the sound of dripping water fills their ears. All around them, bones litter the floor, occasionally taking shapes that make them recoil. At times, the tunnels open up into vast chambers where entire families were entombed centuries ago. The smell of decay clings heavy in the air. Hours seem to pass, though time twisted strangely underground. The silence between the whispers gnawed at them, punctuated only by the crunch of their footsteps on gravel and the occasional scrape of stone above. At last, the tunnel widened. Their lights revealed an enormous chamber. Bones. They covered the walls in patterns too deliberate to be random. Spirals, crosses, and symbols unrecognizable. Skulls formed a macabre mosaic, their empty sockets fixed eternally outward. In the center stood a massive stone altar, blackened with age, its surface stained dark as though with blood. Marco approached cautiously, his lamp trembling. He brushed away a layer of dust and froze. Carved into the altar were Latin inscriptions. The bones will rise. The shadows will feed. The silence will reign. The assistants murmured prayers, clutching their gear as though it could shield them. Then the chamber shifted. At first it was subtle, the faint sound of stone grinding, a soft rattle like pebbles tumbling. But then the walls themselves seemed to move. The bones shuddered, skulls clattering against one another. One skull fell, striking the ground with a hollow crack, then another, and another, until all around them the bones cascaded in a terrible storm. Amid the clatter came another sound, low, guttural, almost human, a moan that rose from the walls themselves. Marco cried out, shielding his head. "They're moving!" The skulls, once scattered, began to roll toward the center, drawn by some unseen force. The altar pulsed faintly as though it were alive, and then the shadows lengthened. Shapes rose from the corners of the chamber, tall and thin, their forms stitched from darkness itself. Hollow faces, elongated limbs, movements jerky and unnatural. They shuffled closer, drawn to the central chamber. Soon the lit candlelight flickered wildly, dancing in the depths of their hollow sockets. A terrible chorus filled the chamber, voices whispering in unison. "Offerings, offerings, offerings." The whispers intensified, coalescing into a single, terrible demand. "We want an offering." They were close enough now to see the bones adorning the walls. Marco swallowed, his eyes widening in horror. There were whole bodies preserved in the stonework, caught in postures of pain and supplication. One was clearly a child, its bones impossibly thin, a tiny hand raised in what might have once been supplication. The whispers continued, growing louder still. An offering, or death. Marco knew they had no choice. What did they want? His gaze drifted to one of the assistants. The older man looked back, his face pale in the flickering light. "What do we do?" he whispered frantically. Marco had no answer. It was then he saw the glint of metal in the shadows. Something glinted in the firelight. Then it moved, slithering like a snake. "There," Marco breathed, his voice tight. "Over there." The others followed his gaze and gasped. In the corner of the chamber, partially obscured by darkness, sat a woman. Or at least what remained of her. Her bones were arranged in such a way as to resemble a person, though she lacked a skull. Where her head should have been, there was a shallow recess in the wall, like a shelf. And upon that shelf rested a pickaxe. The shaft was worn smooth with age, but the blade glinted wickedly in the candlelight. An offering. Marco felt a chill crawl up his spine. The bones in the chamber seemed to shift restlessly as if impatient. He could hear the pickaxe ringing as it struck bone. The sharp metallic tang of blood filled the air. When he looked again, the recess was empty. The skeleton had vanished. Then, as if summoned by the very mention of her, she stepped forward. Her bones clicked together like castanets. "You bring an offering," her voice rasped, dry leaves skittering across pavement. "Then we shall spare you." She beckoned with a finger. "You must bring her." "Who?" The woman gestured again. Her bony finger jabbed at the recess in the wall, empty, silent, waiting. Marco swallowed, dread pooling in his stomach. He knew what she wanted. It was clear now, but to give it to her, to sacrifice it, would mean his own damnation. He thought of his family, of the life that awaited him when he emerged from the catacombs. He could leave this place and pretend none of this had ever happened. Just turn back, ignore the screams echoing from the darkness behind them, and run. He could do that, right? He looked to his companions. They too were staring at the empty recess. Had the others seen it too? Did they understand the horrors that awaited them? Or were they already lost to the madness of the catacombs? Slowly, dreadfully, they all understood. The terrible truth of what was demanded of them. Who would be sacrificed to appease the spirits that haunted the catacombs? For this, of course, was not an archaeological dig. This was a summoning. They hadn't come to uncover history. They had come to raise hell. With a low moan, Marco turned and fled. Behind him he heard the clatter of bones and the echo of the woman's voice slithering through the catacombs like a venomous snake. "Run, fools, run! You cannot escape the hunger." Marco didn't dare look back. He didn't want to see the hungry dead clawing at his heels. He stumbled onward, tripping over loose stones and scrambling up slick inclines, desperate to reach the end of the catacombs. When he finally burst out of the entrance and into the sunlight, gasping and sweating, he dared not stop running. He didn't want to risk hearing that horrible chorus again, begging for blood. But long after the catacombs were behind him, long after he had outrun the whispering dead, he never forgot the hungry eyes boring into his back, the cold touch of bony fingers on his neck, or the taste of that terrible ancient blood on his lips. He had escaped with his life, but at what cost? If you enjoyed this modern scary story, please show your support so I can keep bringing tales of terror to your sub box each and every week. Until next time, sleep tight, because some nightmares are best left undisturbed. What did we just find? Have we been followed this whole time? Why is the tunnel getting smaller? Can we escape this place? What happened to the others? Do we have to stay here forever? Welcome back to another episode. It's me. This is the second part of The Shadow of the Beast from Episode 1. If you haven't seen that yet, I highly recommend checking it out first so you don't miss any of the details. You can find the link in the description below. Also, make sure to leave a comment down below with your thoughts and theories. We may feature your comment in a future episode. Now, let's get started. From the farthest corner of the chamber, something moved. At first, it was no more than a ripple in the dark, like smoke twisting against the walls. But then it stepped forward. The keeper. A figure cloaked in ragged robes, its face swallowed by a hood of absolute shadow. Where its hands should have been, only black talons glistened. Each step it took drained the air of warmth, its presence bending the silence into a crushing weight. The shadows around them bowed, as if in reverence. When it spoke, its voice was a grinding of stone, a hollow echo that reverberated through their bones. The dead must rest. The silence must endure. An offering must be made. One of the assistants dropped to his knees, sobbing, begging for mercy. The keeper turned its hidden gaze upon him. With a single gesture, the boy's body convulsed, lifted into the air, and collapsed lifeless to the floor. The shadows drank his breath. Dr. Mariani stood frozen, horror clamping her throat shut. She wanted to run, to scream, but the keeper's presence bound her in place. Marco tugged at her sleeve, whispering desperately, "We have to go now. Move." Together, they fled through a side passage, the whispers following, the keeper's steps echoing closer and closer behind them. The air grew colder still. The tunnels narrowed, their lights flickered, and always, always, the voice whispered in their ears, "An offering, an offering." The darkness around them pressed in tighter, the passage becoming a narrow slit that forced them to walk single file. Dr. Marianne found herself in the lead, her heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. The flickering light from the tunnel wall revealed panic etched on Marco's face. His grip on her arm was tight, his eyes wide and desperate. Up ahead, the tunnel split into three, each path shrouded in impenetrable darkness. Which way do we go? There was no time to hesitate. Marianne chose the left passage, hoping it would lead them to an exit. Anything but this suffocating embrace of endless dark. They pressed on, the oppressive silence amplifying every thud of their footsteps, every gasp of their breaths. Then she heard it again, the whisper slithering through the darkness. An offering. An offering. It was closer now, but where? Was it behind them? Had they been followed all this time? Or was it here somewhere within the oppressive gloom? The thought sent a fresh wave of terror crashing over her. She quickened her pace, urging Marco to move faster. The darkness seemed to reach out, trying to pull them back. An offering, the voice hissed, and this time it was right beside them. Marianne screamed, flinging her arms wide in a silent, wordless plea. A cold wind gusted past, chilling her to the bone, and then everything went still. Blinking away the sudden spots before her eyes, Marianne realized they were no longer alone. In the flickering lamplight, she saw him standing before them, his form coalescing out of the shadows. He wore a long, tattered robe that looked like a shroud, and his face was obscured by the deep recesses of his hood. But it was his hands, or rather the lack of them, that truly sent a jolt of fear through her. Where his arms should have been, there was nothing but empty, blackened sockets that seemed to suck in the meager light and plunge them into deeper shadows. Marianne gasped, stumbling back, knocking into Marco, who steadied her with a firm grip on her arm. The creature took a step toward them, and with it, the stench of decay filled her nostrils, a cloying sweetness like rotting flowers and mildew. Its head tilted as if in some kind of greeting, and then it spoke. Its voice was a hollow cavern, a vast emptiness that seemed to stretch and bend the very air around them. "Greetings, travelers," it said, and its words echoed with a strange reverberation. "I am the keeper of this place. I have been waiting." Marianne felt a strangled cry rise in her throat, but she swallowed it down, forcing herself to remain calm, to think. Who was this creature? What did it want? And most importantly, how could she escape? Her gaze darted around, searching for an answer, for anything that could help her. The darkness around them was absolute, save for the sliver of light illuminating the creature and the tunnel behind it. But what if that light wasn't natural? What if it was coming from him? The thought struck her with the force of a revelation. "Are you the source of the darkness?" she asked, her voice echoing strangely in her own ears. "The darkness," the creature repeated, and for a moment she saw something akin to amusement in its tone. "There is no darkness here, little one, only the absence of light, and I am merely a part of it." It paused, and Marianne could feel the weight of its gaze upon her, dissecting, probing. "But enough of these games," it continued, and its voice took on a sharper edge. It is time for the ritual to begin. The offering must be made. With that, it raised its hand, or what had been a hand, and beckoned for her to follow. Marianne felt a surge of panic, a primal fear that clawed at her reason. She shook her head, struggling to break free of its influence. "No, I won't let you hurt us," she cried out, her voice trembling. As the creature advanced, its empty socket seeming to bore into her soul, Marianne's mind raced, desperate for a solution. She couldn't let it take Marco. She wouldn't. But what choice did she have? Her eyes darted around, seeking an answer, a weapon, anything. And then she saw it, a glint of metal in the darkness ahead. With a burst of adrenaline, she pushed past the creature, reaching out blindly in the dark, fingers closing around a cold, hard surface. She pulled, dragging the object into the dim light. And when she saw what it was, her heart skipped a beat. It was a knife, long and slender, its blade dull but still sharp enough. Her fingers tightened around the handle, knuckles whitening. She didn't know if it would help, but she had to try. She whirled around to face the creature, her gaze unwavering, her voice shaking. "Stay back," she warned, holding the knife out in front of her like a shield. "Don't come any closer." The creature tilted its head, regarding her with an unfathomable patience. "Brave words, little one," it said, its voice a hollow mockery. "But what good will a simple knife do against me?" Marianne felt a tremor of fear run through her, but she forced it down, gripping the knife tighter. "It's all I have," she whispered, more to herself than to the creature. In the ensuing silence, the creature took a step forward. Marianne held her ground, her entire body tense with anticipation. For a moment, there was nothing but the faint drip of water from the tunnel ceiling, echoing in the stillness. Then the creature spoke again. "Very well," it said, its voice echoing oddly around them. "If that is all you have, then so be it." With that, it reached out a hand, not to grab her, but to take the knife. Marianne recoiled instinctively, but the creature merely sighed, a sound like wind through a graveyard. "You need not fear, little one," it said. "I do not wish to harm you." Slowly, hesitantly, Marianne lowered the knife, her gaze fixed on the creature's outstretched hand. What was it planning? She couldn't possibly know. But something in its demeanor, something in its voice, gave her a sliver of hope, a flicker in the vast darkness. Perhaps there was a way out of this, a way to escape the clutches of the Keeper and the encroaching darkness. But what? They say that life is a journey. Well, this time it's true. We're going to explore tombs full of cursed artifacts, fight terrifying creatures of the night, and uncover dark secrets hidden for centuries. That's right. Join us as we venture deep into the catacombs of Paris today. The year is 2019. After years of careful preparation, a team of archaeologists led by the renowned Dr. Mariani has broken through to a previously unexplored section of the catacombs. What awaits them there will shock them all. Here are the top 10 creepy things found in the catacombs. Number 10. The Passage. This latest discovery had been years in the making. Carefully brushing away centuries of dust and grime, the experts finally realized that the tunnel did not lead to another chamber. No, instead it twisted and turned, revealing a secret vault hidden behind the wall. Unlike the other chambers, this one bore no bones. Instead, relics littered the stone shelves, urns, coins, scrolls, fragments of statues, and more. But it was the centermost item that truly captivated their attention. Bathed in an unnatural glow, it was unlike anything they had ever seen before. The team couldn't believe their eyes. What could this mysterious golden object be? Clearly, it was some kind of relic, but why was it glowing? It almost looked alive. Before anyone could answer the question, Marco stepped forward. No. 9. Marco reaches for the orb. Marco was an ambitious young archaeologist. Eager to make a name for himself, he longed to discover something significant, something that would make him famous. For years, he toiled alongside the esteemed Dr. Mariani. learning the tricks of the trade, patiently waiting for his moment to shine. When the team finally broke through the wall and discovered the secret chamber, Marco felt a surge of excitement. All those years of hard work had led to this moment. He could finally make his mark on history. However, Dr. Mariani was less enthusiastic. Something about the chamber set her unease, a feeling she couldn't shake. Yet the allure of the unknown was too strong to resist. As the team ventured deeper, Marco couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. The golden relic at the center of the room beckoned to him, promising untold secrets. He had to touch it. In that moment of weakness, everything changed. The chamber reacted violently, bones cascading from hidden recesses and filling the floor. The shelves split, and shadows bled from the walls, writhing like living smoke. Number 8. The appearance of the Keeper. Emerging from the shadows was a horrifying sight. The creature they had encountered before, the Keeper, stood before them again, larger, darker, its form stretching impossibly tall. Its features were obscured by a deep hood, yet its presence radiated immense power. The whispers, which had been faint murmurs, became a deafening roar, an ocean of voices crying out in agony. The team scattered, desperately seeking shelter from the creature's wrath. Yet there was no escape. The Keeper loomed over them, its presence suffocating, its darkness seeping into their bones. Number 7. The Forbidden Touch. Marco, overcome with fear, clutched the relic tightly, its warmth seeping into his skin. He wanted to let go, to break free from its burning embrace, but he couldn't. The relic seemed to have a hold on him, its power coursing through his veins. The Keeper sensed the connection between them. Its eyes, burning embers in the darkness, fixed on Marco, its form contorting in rage. It lunged, its skeletal fingers reaching for the relic, but Marco held on tight, bracing for the inevitable confrontation. Number 6. The catacombs tremble. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet trembled. The catacombs themselves were reacting to the struggle, the ancient bones shifting, the tunnels groaning. The walls cracked, revealing more relics and whispered secrets. It was as if the very essence of the catacombs was awakened, stirred by the battle between the Keeper and Marco. Number 5. The Sacrifice. Dr. Mariani watched in horror as the catacombs shook around them. She knew that something terrible was happening, but she couldn't understand why. Then she saw Marco, his face pale, struggling to hold on to the relic as the Keeper pulled with all its might. In that moment, she understood. The only way to stop the chaos was to sacrifice the relic. With a heavy heart, Dr. Mariani took a step forward. She knew what she had to do. Ignoring the Keeper's enraged screech, she reached out and grabbed the relic from Marco. He looked at her in disbelief, but she ignored him. This was the only way to save them all. With a final surge of strength, she threw the relic away from her, towards the gaping hole in the wall. It sailed through the air, disappearing into the darkness beyond. Number 4. The Keeper attacks. As soon as the relic left Marco's grasp, the Keeper attacked. It lunged towards Dr. Marini, its skeletal fingers outstretched, ready to crush her. She screamed as the Keeper's grip tightened around her, its dark energy seeping into her bones. She struggled, but it was no use. The Keeper was too strong. Just as the creature was about to deliver the final blow, Marco intervened. He tackled the Keeper, sending it crashing to the ground. The two figures grappled, their forms silhouetted against the flickering torchlight. The Keeper roared in anger, its voice echoing through the tunnels, but Marco held on. He refused to let go. Finally, the Keeper grew weak, its strength ebbing away. It let out a final scream, a mixture of pain and rage, before collapsing to the ground, its form dissolving into dust. No. 3. The Secret Chamber. The chamber was no longer a place of torment. The golden relic was gone, and with it the oppressive presence that had hung over the catacombs. As the dust settled, Marco and Dr. Mariani surveyed the damage. The room was in ruins. The shelves lay shattered on the ground, and the walls were covered in cracks. But amidst the destruction, they saw something else, something that made their hearts skip a beat. A new passage had opened up in the wall, revealing a staircase that spiraled upwards into the darkness. They exchanged a look, their eyes shining with excitement. What secrets lay behind that door? What treasures or knowledge awaited them in the uncharted territory? They didn't know, but they were eager to find out. Number 2. The Ancient Mechanism. The stairs were steep and narrow, and the air grew colder as they descended. The flickering torchlight revealed strange symbols carved into the walls, and the sound of dripping water echoed around them. At the bottom of the stairs, they found themselves in a large chamber. In the center, a massive mechanism stood bathed in an eerie green glow. Gears of all sizes were intricately arranged, and strange symbols adorned the metal surface. It looked like something from a long-forgotten civilization, a relic from a time before memory. Number 1. The Shadowy Figure. Suddenly, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, his face hidden behind a hood. His eyes glowed an eerie green in the dim light, and he carried a staff topped with a skull. He looked like a creature from nightmare, a harbinger of death and decay. The figure raised his staff, and the air grew heavy with menace. "Who are you?" Dr. Mariani demanded, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. "And what is this place?" The figure chuckled, a low, rumbling sound that sent shivers down their spines. "You seek knowledge," he rasped, his voice like the scraping of bones. "But knowledge comes at a price." He gestured to the mechanism in the center of the room. "This is the heart of the catacombs, the source of its power." He leaned closer, his eyes burning into theirs. "And you have stumbled upon a secret that should have remained buried." The catacombs themselves were reacting to their intrusion, the gears grinding and clanking ominously. Dr. Mariani and Marco exchanged a worried glance. They had uncovered a secret that was best left undisturbed, and now they had to find a way out before it was too late. Rome is a city of contrasts, a place where ancient ruins rub shoulders with modern marvels. But beneath the bustling streets and the iconic landmarks lies something different, something sinister. In this story, we venture deep into the catacombs beneath the city, where history meets horror. In the heart of the Eternal City, there are secrets that have remained buried for centuries. We're talking about those creepy underground tunnels where history takes a dark turn and the dead come back to life. Well, maybe not literally, but trust me, it's still super scary. Let's explore the spine-chilling catacombs of Rome. Our story begins with Marco, an ambitious young archaeologist who thinks he has finally discovered his greatest treasure yet, a mysterious relic hidden deep within the catacombs. He recruits the help of his close friend, the experienced Dr. Mariani, and together they set out to uncover its secrets. What they don't know is that what they are dealing with is something beyond their wildest imaginations. As they venture deeper into the catacombs, the tunnels seem to close in around them, the air growing thick with a palpable sense of dread. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake, threatening to collapse the tunnels around them. Racing against time, Marco and Dr. Marianne find themselves in a desperate struggle to escape the crumbling catacombs. They run through the collapsing tunnels. Bones fall like rain, and shadows claw from the walls. Marco staggers, clutching a glowing relic. It brightens with each step. His flesh blisters where it touches him, but he cannot release it. It clings to him as much as he clings to it. Dr. Marianne pulls at him, desperate, but the relic's light sears her hands when she tries to pry it away. "Drop it, Marco," she cries, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. "Please." Behind them, the keeper advances, filling the corridor with its vast, suffocating form. Its voice thunders, shaking the very earth beneath their feet. The silence must endure. One by one, the assistants are taken, dragged screaming into the shadows. Marco falls to his knees, the relic burning through his chest. It embeds itself into his body. He screams, a sound that tears through the tunnels before collapsing into silence. Dr. Marianne, the last survivor, turns back toward the light above, clawing her way upward. Her torch sputters. Her lungs fill with dust, but she climbs. Just before she reaches the surface, she hears it. The whispers. Soft now. Almost tender. Stay. Stay. A hand, pale and skeletal, grasps her ankle. Her scream is swallowed by the earth. The catacombs seal themselves again. Above, Rome bustles as it always has, oblivious to the silence below. And, in the darkness, the relic pulses faintly, waiting. The catacombs beneath Rome are an intricate network of tunnels and chambers, serving as burial grounds for millions of people over the centuries. But these eerie passages hold more than just bones and artifacts. They also conceal a chilling secret that has remained hidden for far too long. Delving deeper into the catacombs, Marco and Dr. Marianne encounter strange symbols and inscriptions that hint at a darker purpose behind these underground labyrinths. As they piece together the clues, they uncover a terrifying truth. The catacombs are not merely burial grounds, but a gateway to another realm, a place where the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest. But how did this gateway come to be? And what is the significance of the relic that Marco has stumbled upon? The answers, when uncovered, threaten to change everything they thought they knew about history and existence itself. The closer they get to the truth, the more danger they face. Malevolent spirits drawn to the disturbance begin to manifest, seeking to prevent them from uncovering the secrets buried within the catacombs. Marco and Dr. Marianne find themselves in a race against time, not only to escape the clutches of the supernatural forces at play, but also to understand the relic's true nature and purpose before it's too late. As they navigate the treacherous tunnels, the stakes rise, and they must confront not only external threats, but also the darkness that lurks within themselves. It's important to remember that the catacombs weren't just some random place. They were part of the fabric of ancient Roman society, deeply intertwined with the beliefs and practices of the time. Understanding this context is key to appreciating the story and the characters. For instance, the Romans' fascination with death and the afterlife was quite pronounced, and the catacombs reflected that. The way they designed and decorated the burial chambers provides insights into their understanding of the journey after death. Similarly, the presence of tombs and monuments dedicated to martyrs adds a layer of historical significance, reminding us of the turbulent times in which they lived. So, as Marco and Dr. Marianne delve deeper into the catacombs, they're not just exploring a labyrinth of tunnels. They're stepping into a world that's both familiar and alien. One fascinating aspect of the catacombs is the art and symbolism found within the tunnels. The paintings and engravings depict scenes from daily life, religious stories, and even the deceased person's journey into the afterlife. This visual imagery not only beautifies the catacombs, but also serves as a window into the minds and souls of those who created it. By examining the artwork, our characters can learn more about the people who lived and died in ancient Rome. They might uncover hidden meanings or symbolism that offer clues to the mysteries surrounding the relic or the catacombs themselves. Furthermore, the catacombs are not just a testament to the ingenuity of the ancient builders. The way the tunnels were constructed, the ventilation system, and the use of space all speak to the resourcefulness and adaptability of the people who made them. Marco, an archaeologist, would certainly appreciate the engineering marvel that is the catacombs. But there's more to it than just bricks and mortar. The very structure of the catacombs could hold clues to the secrets buried within. By paying attention to the layout of the tunnels, the design of the chambers, and any unusual features, Marco and Dr. Marianne might uncover patterns or connections that others have missed. The catacombs might be a labyrinth, but they also might hold the key to unraveling the mystery at the heart of the story. Here's the thing. The true horror often lies not in what we see, but in what we don't. The idea of something lurking just out of sight, watching, waiting to strike is a powerful one. The darkness in the catacombs becomes more than just an absence of light. It's a character in itself, a menacing presence that envelops and oppresses. This darkness can play tricks on the mind, distorting what we perceive and amplifying our fears. When the characters venture deeper into the catacombs, the darkness seems to close in on them, mirroring their growing sense of dread. It's a physical manifestation of their emotional state, a visual representation of the terror that awaits them around every corner. Think about the flickering shadows cast by their torches dancing on the tomb walls, or the sudden, unexpected movement in their peripheral vision that disappears when they turn to face it. These moments of uncertainty and suspense create a chilling atmosphere that keeps us on the edge of our seats. And then there's the sound. Silence in a place like the catacombs can be deafening. It amplifies every creak, every drip of water, every echo of their own footsteps. Sound becomes a source of constant unease. It's a reminder that they're alone in this vast, echoing darkness, vulnerable to whatever lurks within. Then there are the things we do see, the glimpses of the supernatural that hint at the presence of malevolent spirits. Perhaps it's the fleeting shadow of a figure standing at the edge of their vision, or the faint outline of a face peering at them from a tomb. These sightings, while brief, leave an indelible impression, suggesting that they're not alone in the catacombs. The most effective horror often comes from what we don't see, from the suggestion of something sinister lurking in the darkness. It's a masterful way of tapping into our primal fears and keeping us constantly on edge. So, as Marco and Dr. Marianne venture deeper into the catacombs, the darkness becomes more than just an absence of light. It transforms into a living, breathing entity that tests their courage and sanity at every turn. If you want to dive even deeper into the world of spooky stories and creepypasta, check out these videos next. And if you're enjoying our scary story, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. Your support means everything to us, so show us some love. And who knows, you might just find yourself in the next video.